Adding and subtracting surds can be likened to, or is very similar to, adding and subtracting algebra. Okay. So if you look at the algebra concept, okay, if you recall, if you're trying to simplify 5a plus 3a minus 4b, 5a and 3a are like terms. So what we do is we say 5a plus 3a is 8a, and minus 4b is on its own. So to simplify all of this, it's going to be 8a minus 4b. And so surds is exactly the same, okay? You've got 5 root 2 in this case, plus 3 root 2. Well, 5 root 2 plus 3 root 2 is 8 root 2. And 4 root 3 is different because, see, the root 2, these are like surds, and this is not the same. So 5 root 2 plus 3 root 2 is 8 root 2, and you put the minus 4 root 3 back where it was. So just like in algebra, one can only add or subtract like terms, in surds, one can only add or subtract like surds, okay? So just to reinforce, if you have root 3 plus root 3, that's going to be 2 root 3, because in algebra, if you had a plus a, that would be 2a, okay? So please keep in mind that if you had a plus b in algebra, you could not simplify that anymore, okay? So if I've got root 2 plus root 3, we can't simplify that anymore, okay, because they're not like surds. So please don't make the mistake and think that if you've got root 8 plus root 2, these are not like surds. You can't simplify that simply by adding them together and getting root 10. That's not the way it works. Now, if you look at this example, okay, root 2 plus root 3 can't be simplified, so it stays as root 2 plus root 3. If you look at root 8 plus root 2, okay, I just said a minute ago that root 8 plus root 2 is not root 10, and that's 100% true. So what do you do when you're trying to simplify these questions? Well, the first thing you should do is check to make sure if each surd is in its simplest form. That one is not, and that one is. Okay? So the root 8 can be rewritten. So root 8 is the same as root 4 times root 2, which is 2 root 2. So you can rewrite this question as 2 root 2 plus root 2, which now gives you 3 root 2. Okay? All right, so let's carry these principles across to these questions. Question 1, can these be simplified anymore? No, they can't. They're already in their simplest form. So, I'm talking about the individual surds. So now that we know that, let's have a look. 5 root 2 plus 7 root 2 is 12 root 2, and we stop, and we put the minus 4 root 3 back where it was. Question 2, is that in its simplest form? Yes, it is. Is that in its simplest form? No, it's not. So let's work on that. Root 32 is root 16 times root 2, which is 4 root 2. So now the question can be rewritten as 7 root 2 minus 4 root 2, which is simply 3 root 2. Excellent. Next one, question 3. Is that in its simplest form? Yes, it is. Is that in its simplest form? Yes, it is. Is that in its simplest form? No, it's not. So root 18 is root 9 times root 2, which is 3 root 2. So now we have 5 root 2 minus 4 root 3 plus 3 root 2. And 5 root 2 plus 3 root 2 is 8 root 2. And put the minus 4 root 3 back where it was. Question 4. This question's cut off. This should be a B here. Okay, root 36b. Is this in its simplest form? Yes, it is. Is this in its simplest form? Yes, it is. Root 81a, is that in its simplest form? No, it's not. And root 36b, no, it's not. Now, root 81a can be rewritten as root 81 times root a, which is 9 root a. And root 36b can be rewritten as root 36 times root b, which is 6 root b. So now we have 6 root a minus 2 root b plus 9 root a plus 6 root b. Now collecting like surds, 6 root a plus 9 root a is 15 root a, and minus 2 root b plus 6 root b is plus 4 root b, and that's complete. Okay, let's now have a look at question 5. Can you simplify root x anymore? No, you can't. So that's already in its simplest form. Can you simplify the square root of x cubed anymore? And yes, you can. So this is not in its simplest form. So how do you simplify root x cubed? Well, let's have a look. So root x cubed can be rewritten as root x squared times root x. And root x squared is x, so that's x root x. So now we have 5x root x minus x root x. And let's pretend there's a 1 here because you're allowed to. So really here, if you think about it, you've got 5 of these minus 1 of these. So 5x root x minus 1x root x is 4x root x. Okay, so that concludes the addition and subtraction of like surds. As usual, practice makes perfect, and I encourage you to do as many questions as possible.